Well, let's get some reaction now on the president's energy plan. We're joined by Kevin Mileham, the DA spokesperson on mineral resources and energy. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Kevin. But perhaps let's start off here. The establishment of yet another committee, right? This time, the National Energy Crisis Committee, to try to tackle this issue when it comes to inconsistent power supply. I would ask you, have we not had enough war rooms already? And yet the establishment of yet another committee, are we expecting something tangible and something different this time around?
Absolutely not. I think that you've hit the nail on the head. This is another committee, another war room, another talk shop. And while we believe that the president has finally seen the light as far as the crisis is concerned and the scope of the crisis and the impact it has on the economy, this committee, which will contain a cross-section of ministers who have failed over the years to deal with this crisis, it needs to be held accountable. And unfortunately, the presidency is not held accountable in Parliament. So we're going to be writing tomorrow to the Speaker of Parliament, calling for an ad hoc committee to be established to hold this particular committee to account, to do oversight on this committee, to make sure that it hits its milestones, that it delivers on what it says it's going to deliver.
As we're looking at right now, I mean, one of the biggest problems when it comes to, procurement within Eskom and being able to fix the broken sort of span is the issue around red tape. Now, the president articulating that in a move to try to alleviate the pressure as well as the time spent in procurement processes, that now we're going to be removing this red tape. Can this actually be a good step forward?
Absolutely. This is one of the better proposals in this energy plan from the president, and we really, really welcome it. It's something that comes straight out of the DA playbook. It's something we've been saying for years, that there needs to be more focus on repairing Eskom, more focus on adding new generation capacity, and very much so getting rid of unnecessary red tape and bureaucracy. Now, the problem that we've got is that it's not just inside Eskom that there's red tape, because they obviously have procurement processes that they have to follow, and that is delayed by red tape and bureaucracy. But also outside Eskom, when we bring in independent power producers, there is a very bureaucratic process that requires a lot of streamlining. So we welcome any steps that are going to be taken to reduce that red tape. And then lastly, with regard to red tape reduction, the president spoke about rooftop solar for households and businesses, and this is something that is of critical importance if we are to ease the demand on Eskom, and we need to ease the red tape and regulatory burden there as well. So it's for this reason that the City of Cape Town announced this morning that they were making some major strides in actually doing just that, taking the red tape away, making it easier for commercial customers to connect to their distribution grid and to get money back for generating electricity and feeding it into the municipal distribution.
Well, certainly, we've had different mixes when it comes to this kind of conversation. One around the procurement and perhaps even the acceleration of gas, battery storage, renewable energy. On the other side of as well, being able to advance, when it comes to IPPs, as well as the way in which procurement mechanisms will work. And then on the other side of it, being able to tackle the issue around the unbundling of Eskom in itself. When you're looking at the plan holistically, is it a plan that is actually achievable in the short term, or are we looking at another 5-6 years of the implementation element of the plan actually coming to fruition? I say this time and time again, lots of analysts would say this time and time again, South Africa is inundated with great planning. We really are good with planning. I think we fall short where the plans become something tangible if our power stations are anything to go by, as well as the delays that we've suffered as a result of them.
Faith, you've really put your finger on the key issue here, and that is delivery, implementation of the plan. And so the first thing that needs to happen is we need to see all this red tape taken out of the way. In fact, we would go so far as to say government and Eskom need to get out of the way and let municipalities that have the capacity and the ability, and businesses that have the capacity and the ability and the resources to do so, to get in there and start building the generation capacity that South Africa so desperately needs. Now, it goes a little bit further as well. And here we really need to talk about what can we do in the short term to make it easier for Eskom to carry on its business. And that means bringing additional generation capacity online. That means we need to look at what can we do to add new generation as quickly as we can to bring more electricity to the grid. Only that way will we be able to ease the demand on Eskom. They won't be required to run their plants as hard as they have been, and they will be able to do the necessary maintenance. But until we bring that additional generation capacity online, Eskom is going to continue running their plants at maximum capacity, and we're going to continue to see breakages and unplanned outages and the like. So we really need to clear that red tape out of the way, clear the bureaucracy out of the way, make it easy for people to do business. And just so that we're clear, that's very much the sweep of a pen. It's literally signing a signature and saying, this is what we're going to do and make it happen, to allow that red tape and bureaucracy to disappear, and then allowing that new generation to come in. And that's to build a sufficient generation capacity. We're looking at probably 18 to 24 months of timeline. And then we will be able to start looking at repairing Eskom and getting Eskom up and running again.
You know, also when the president speaks of increasing private sector investment, right, to be able to capacitate our energy supply, the big question then becomes, who's going to be the private sector interest and to what cause? Because it's one thing where we've seen, unfortunately, that the beneficiary kind of gap is almost top and it ends up as a certain space, right? It doesn't filter down to those that would really want to be able to, and number one, obtain opportunities on merit. Number two, I have to ask myself around black businesses. Will there opportunities be open for black businesses to also participate as interested parties? Or will we see that the concentration will be around the very select few who are able to benefit from the crisis at Eskom in itself? So how do we ensure that it's not just the few 5 or 10 businesses that are linked politically or linked economically that are able to benefit? Because what it ends up doing, Kevin, is that it perpetuates still the economic injustices that this country is facing.
You know, Faith, I agree with you 100% that we need to address the economic injustices and the inequality that is pervasive in our society. I absolutely agree with you. But right now we have a crisis where 46% of our workforce are unemployed, where we have inflation at over 7.5%, where we have a rand-dollar exchange rate and fuel prices and electricity prices that are crippling us. And every day of load shedding is costing us billions and billions of rand. So we really need to say, well, okay, what can we do to sort out our economic crisis? And that's to fix the load shedding. And then we can start looking at, well, how do we transform our economy on a grand scale? And I think we get too caught up in the big transformation picture and refuse to deal with the immediate crisis that is at hand, and that is the rolling blackouts that are destroying our country. And we can certainly take the necessary steps to do transformation and the like once we've got a stable electricity supply. I do think there's room for all players in the market. I think there's a lot of scope for everyone to come in and be part of this. But I do think also we need to say, well, what can we do to bring electricity online as quickly as we can for everyone? And it's not just about the businesses out there. It's also about the person living at home who needs electricity to cook with and lights to study with and the like. So we need to say, well, what is the benefit for everyone, not just the business perspective?
Kevin Mileham, thank you so much for your time this evening, DA spokesperson on mineral resources and energy, giving us the DA's take on the energy plan by President Ramaphosa.